All right, Abraham, thank you so much for joining us today. If we could start, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself personally and how you first got into agriculture?
Yep, thank you. So started working in agriculture when I was still at the university. So I studied at UC Davis, and though I didn't study in an agricultural degree, a lot of the people I was working with at the time were in agriculture, and that's how I got started. Who came to be the PI on the project that I started working on in Uganda was a soil scientist that started working on projects in Uganda on small-scale vegetable production. So after graduating, I came and joined on that project, and as we were working on that project, which was basically looking at supporting extension services for small-scale vegetable growers, one of the main issues that always came out from farmers was they need to produce in the dry season to take advantage of the high prices, which in the rainy season, they could produce all they want, but marketing it was hard. They weren't getting the prices they need, and so water solutions came out as a major important issue that they had. So that was really how we started on irrigation and agriculture more generally.
That's awesome. So what sparked the initial idea for Agriworks? I mean, was there a specific eureka moment or kind of a gradual realization that that was the best solution for the need you were seeing?
Yeah, so what happened with Agriworks was really more that the projects we were working on were trying to identify what are solutions that could be taken from general irrigation approaches that already existed and localizing it to what farmers needed. But what we really saw with Agriworks was we also wanted to have something which was more of a turnkey solution that could work with farmers anywhere where they were within a certain range of a water source and were cultivating small acreages. So Agriworks really started out as a solution so that more than one farmer could share one set of equipment, which could move from farm to farm on the back of a common motorcycle, which was going to be the cheapest solution that we could develop for a motorized irrigation system. And eventually it evolved into providing irrigation as a service with this mobile system to make it even more affordable for farmers. So I would say it wasn't a single eureka moment, it was more of a process, especially from my own perspective, learning farmers' environment and needs from some of the research angles that we were doing with the university project, but then taking that towards what's a scalable solution that could be applicable to many farmers and going through an iterative process to find the most cost-effective solutions.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what were the first steps that you took to turn this idea into a reality?
Yeah, I mean, it was really a long process. So, I mean, way back in 2010, we started playing around with the first idea of a mobile irrigation system back at the university with my co-founder, who is also a Ugandan. So when I started working in Uganda, the two of us still played around with the idea a bit more and started developing some different technologies that we could test out with farmers. And over time, we developed a technology which had a small engine pump, some lay-flat pipes that we could connect in a modular fashion and take it from farm to farm on a motorcycle. And then from there, what ended up going on was actually reducing the whole system from the higher pressure pumps to just a small pump that could be attached to the motorcycle, and then that could be pumps shorter distances but with lower pressure and a much lower cost to farmers' field. So the evolution of this technology really took quite a long time. I would say that by the time we had this solution that could be done for irrigation as a service with this low pressure motorcycle powered technology, it had already been 9 years. So it was around 2019 with a lot of partnerships from the universities, from other nonprofits that have supported with engineering. But it's been a long process before we got to the solution that we're using right now.
That's awesome. So what were some of the first hurdles that you encountered when you were fleshing out this business model, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, there have been a lot of hurdles. So the first thing we did actually before we got to the irrigation as a service was offer farmers the same equipment on credit in small groups of farmers. The idea being that if they can pay over a period of time as they use the equipment and use the equipment in a group, then the cost per user would be very low. But what we found is, it was really challenging for farmers to share one set of equipment. As you can imagine, coordinating who should use it on which day, who has to repair it, what happens, in case something gets lost, was really challenging for farmers. Also, we found that one of the key issues was even though a farmer takes the equipment, there are so many other risks to their farming in agriculture. I mean, there's pests and disease which damage the crop, which prevented them from repaying the equipment. Water sources would dry up, person can get sick. There's all kind of reasons why somebody wasn't able to benefit fully from the crop. And so when something's on a credit system, many of those gaps in payment becomes really hard for the sustainability of the business. So I think from there, that's how we even decided to do the transition to irrigation as a service, because we realized farmers weren't able to take on this whole risk. that comes with owning a system and having a debt on this system. So as a result, we started offering it to them just on a pay-per-use basis, where farmer can irrigate for as small as 1 hour interval and get water whenever they need it for as small or as big of a plot as they want. And that's when we really saw a huge change in demand. And that's where we saw this was going to be something way more scalable than having farmers owning their own equipment. So that was a major challenge that we overcome. But at the same time, the irrigation as a service also brings its own challenges. So right now, one of the key things is how do we get to locate ourselves in an area with a high enough density of demand so that we can be really efficient in how we schedule our irrigations, having one set of equipment go to as many farmers as possible in a day, and then also making sure that farmers are also able to demand the system by having good outcomes throughout the rest of the year in their crops. Irrigation in Uganda, at least, is very dependent on how quality the rains were in the previous years. So if farmers get a good income in the rainy season, then they can invest in the dry season. But when you find that the rainy season also isn't good, we find that a lot of farmers don't irrigate in the dry season because the money they invest in the dry season comes from their previous harvest. So I think those are still challenges we're trying to find solutions to, and farmers ask us still for credit, even for the smaller irrigation amounts. And we're still trying to find ways that we can streamline the irrigation events throughout the year to have a stable business and also to help farmers maximize their yields. A lot of farmers still are irrigating when they have money, not when it's an ideal time to irrigate. So there's still a lot of challenges we're trying to sort out in the business.
Sure. So let's talk location real quick. How did you guys determine the first location for the rollout of your business, and what factors led you to determine your initial service area?
Yeah, so originally, it was really selected, for originally central and eastern Uganda because that's where I was working, that's where my co-founder was working, and as we were testing out the technologies and getting feedback from farmers, that's where we were doing it. So we didn't have a process by selecting everywhere we could in the world that would be ideal for this model. The model really came out of the locations where we work. So for example, even the model that we deliver water to farmers now, we take advantage of the local motorcycle riders. There's so many motorcycle taxis in the area, and we saw that was a resource for allowing to us to provide irrigation at low cost and also be more sustainable for us as a business to have a low overhead and be able to scale up and scale down really quickly. So that's an example of a solution that was developed here because that's where we were. That being said, I think that now that we've streamlined most of the model, it has wide applicability to a lot of other places. And as we said, we're trying to develop something which is turnkey and can work for farmers as long as they have water source and field within a certain radius of the water. So I think that right now we'd like to see, especially in areas that have a bit of a drier climate, and areas that have a lot of high value crop growers, if we can try a similar model with a few adaptations, which of course will be necessary, and to see especially in other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, where we have good conditions and a high demand for irrigation, if this can be rolled out in those areas as well.
That's awesome. So sitting where you are now and looking back on your journey, how would you say that Agriworks has evolved, and what were some of the pivotal moments or turning points that drove that evolution?
Yeah, I think that the biggest evolution we had was when we transitioned from selling equipment with asset finance to going to irrigation as a service. I think that was really a key moment that we saw. We had a totally different way to think about how we were going to provide solutions to farmers. In the past, we never thought it was going to be possible to do something like irrigation as a service in a way which is cost effective without having huge monitoring costs. But I think through the process of partnering with other partners in the university system and some of the other nonprofits that we've worked with on developing engineering solutions and piloting a lot with farmers, we've been able to overcome some of those challenges to make the irrigation as a service a possibility. And now I think that we're really passionate about that going forward. Considering the results we've seen when we compare farmers' ownership and farmers using it as a service, I think we really have full buy-in that this is the way to go. And I think that hopefully we're trying to pioneer, more accessible solutions, especially for the real resource-constrained smallholders that we're serving. And hopefully that transition, that pivot from sales model to irrigation as a service will pay off in the long run.
Any surprising successes that you care to share?
So the big successes I think are really from the side of our users. I would say we have two main users. We have users who are farmers, who use the water to produce the crops, and we have cases of farmers growing a very small piece of land, getting enough funds to purchase another piece of land, using that to invest money into their home, to their livestock, and you really see lives being transformed by the irrigation. But also on the side of the service providers, who are the motorcycle riders who we use to provide irrigation, we see them also, going from somebody with basically just daily income, hiring a motorcycle, using it to get some money for each day's work, to somebody that's owning multiple motorcycles, owning another small business, because of the predictability and the income that they're getting by just connecting them to the farmers who need water. So I think that really, when we see all of the stakeholders we work with, we get a lot of encouragement that this is a high impact model.
That's fantastic. Okay, so final question. What are your plans for the future, right? Where do you see Agriworks in the next year, 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, so I think what we really want to do now is just to validate that this is something that not only is high impact, but also can be sustained and scaled up to thousands and tens of thousands more farmers. So we don't think that can be done overnight, but we want to first have a proof of viability that we can get to the kind of break-even metrics that we need according to our financial modeling. And we think that part of that will be expanding to new areas with maybe more ideal environmental conditions. And we think that if we do that, then really once we can start of recycling the funds that we have to doing more investment into more equipment and to new geographies, we think that we can really serve a large number of farmers and improve the resilience to climate change, improve incomes and livelihoods. So we're hoping to serve tens of thousands of farmers over the next 5 to 10 years.
That's fantastic. Abraham, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.